Okay. How
All
did we?
right, ready? Here we
How did
go.
we?
We're going live. All right, we're live now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of At the Vice. And today's guest is a New Jersey resident and a local guide by the name of Fritz Miller. If you guys don't know him on YouTube, on Instagram, not YouTube, he's not on YouTube. But if you don't know him on Instagram, I will have all his information down below in the description. I'm having some issues with loading all his stuff in there. For some reason, it only let me add our guys. So we got Joe, we got Dave, and myself, aka Uptown Dave. He's gotta have the Uptown Dave. But we're gonna get started real quick. Uh, the people that are helping us with this episode is HMH. HMH Vices has been around since 1975. They have anything from starter vices to tube vices to professional style vices such as the TRV. The TRV has actually been awarded a the best consumers vice on the market in 2022 and currently is the top notch vice on the market as per consumers. So if you guys want to check out some of their tying materials as far as their vices as well, the link is going to be down in the description. They are the sponsor of today's podcast. Also, this podcast is being brought to you by Riverside. Riverside FM is the greatest place to start a podcast, do a video podcast. Super easy, super simple. You could edit everything through their app or through their website. So if you guys are looking to start a podcast or even to join us, um, we will be calling guests to come in. Definitely download the app. I will have the link in the description as well. And you could definitely join us on a call one day. We will take random callers if you guys want to call. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get to the interview. Uh, who wants to ask the first question?
I can go
I can ask the
first.
first question.
Well,
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Everybody's fighting for the first
all right.
question.
Go ahead, Uptown.
No,
Oldest goes
Fritz,
first.
Oh man, I've had a rod in my head since I was probably two or three. I grew up on boats. My grandparents had a house in LBI, well, Beach Haven West, right before the bridge. So I mean, my entire summers from as early as I can remember were spent down in LBI. And then I grew up right in Roebling, which is right along the Delaware River. I less than an eighth of a mile from my house was the river. So for as long as I can remember, it was grabbing rods, running down to the river, and catching stripers, catfish, bluegill, sunnies, you name it. But yeah, I'd say probably around the age of three.
All right, good question. Good question.
not bad.
Joe, you got
Yeah.
questions?
Well, no, I just wanted to get into history at Fritz. Fritz, you seem pretty young. You mind telling us your age?
32.
32. Wow.
Yeah, turn 33 next month.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to give me a birthday present.
What, Fritz? When did you actually start fly fishing? And did, like all of us, did you start watching videos of Flip Pallet back in the 90s?
So this is funny. So I went to school in Montclair, New Jersey, and like I said, I was a huge fisherman. Loved chasing stripers. Stripers in the Delaware River was always my jam. So when I went up to college, I met a couple kids, and they seen that I had a couple spinning rods in the front seat of my car, and I was like, "Oh, you like fishing?" I was like, "I do." And they're like, "Yo, we're gonna go fishing this weekend. We're gonna go trout fishing." And my first thought was, "I want to go catch a fucking trout." I use them as bait, and I had no interest in it. But they talked me into it, and we get there, they handed me a fly rod, and I had no idea what to do with it. And I was god awful with it. And I don't like being bad at things, especially things that I like. So I don't know. I had a hook in my ear. I was in trees. They were catching tons of fish. We fished the Peak West River. They must have caught 100 fish, and I didn't catch a single one, and that sucked. So on my way home, I stopped at Dick's, And the dicks up there, they actually had some fly fishing stuff. And I bought a Eagle Claw $30 special. That's pretty much what it was, and just a handful of dicks flies. And I skipped class for like 3 days in a row, and I watched every casting video that I could find on YouTube. Right on the stream side, I'd watch a video, get up and try to do it. Watch a video, get up, try to do it. Watch a video, get up, try to do it. And it took me about 3 days. On my third day, I was getting ready to leave, and I was fishing this little run behind a like a rail car on the Pequest River, and I was watching this little tiny rainbow come up, and he was sipping stuff left and right, left and right. I had no idea what he's eating. I just knew that I had flies in my box. Some of them sank and some of them floated. So I put on the biggest one that floated possible, and I made the world's god-awful cast, but he ate it. And that was the first fish that I ever caught on a fly rod. It was a little rainbow trout. And I've been, hooked ever since. Just hooked.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a story that's significant to them and that really got them into fishing. That's a pretty cool story.
A lot of guys first flies are first fish on a fly rod's bluegill. I didn't even get into. I think I fished trout for probably 2.5 years before I ever went after anything else. I didn't go after bluegill. I didn't go after bass and nothing. All I did was trout. And then it was really cool. I mean, not really cool, but Sandy came through. Sandy hit, and at that time I was student teaching. So my school got closed down for about a week and a half, and then when they went to go back to school, they realized that somebody had gone in and stolen every smart board, every laptop, every computer, everything out of our school. So they closed the school down for another week. So I did nothing but fish for almost 3 weeks. And I think that was like really how I honed in a lot of the skills. I mean, I spent 8-9 hours a day on the water. There was a gas shortage where we were living at the time, up in Montclair, Clifton area. So Stephanie, my wife and my now wife, we would drive our cars down to South Jersey with gas cans in the trunk. We had no idea that this was illegal. We'd fill up gas and drive it back to North Jersey just so I could go fish.
That's funny. So my question to you is: you're gonna be guiding, right?
Yeah.
So what are you gonna be? Since we got a little background on you, and we'll dip back into it. But most people that came on, they want to know the guide. So what are you guiding for? Where are you gonna be guiding? Are you gonna be covering all of New Jersey, Northern Jersey, or?
So really, big thing is I just got kind of picked up by Shannon's, which is now South Branch Outfitters. So I'm going to be doing a lot of trout trips for them. I'm a trout junkie. I am. I love my trout. I love my wild trout. So I'm going to be doing a lot of trout trips with them. And then also with them and Stream of Dreams. Both of them just kind of as like a 10-90-90 employee. I'm going to be running pike trips. So I'll be fishing a couple of the rivers in North Jersey for pike. And then as the season progresses into the summer, there's certain areas down here on the Delaware River that fish really well for our local stripers as the water gets a little warmer and the big migratory fish come out. There's a lot of males and local fish that stay around, and the area that you're fishing is kind of just like a big trout stream. So I just bought a new jet boat to kind of key in and fish that area and smallmouth around that area as well. But as I'm waiting for my captain's license to come in from the lovely United States Coast Guard, once that comes in, then I'm going to be looking to do more of the salt style stuff. So I have a 19-foot Pathfinder that I'm looking to run the Raritan Bay, areas of the Raritan River, Barnegat Bay, Barnegat Inlet, and then as the fall comes in, that fall run where they're out on bunker pods right off the beach. And I'll be looking to primarily target them with a fly rod, but I am no purist. If guys want to come on a boat with a spinning rod and throw a spinning rod for them, please, by all means, catch your fish, take your pictures, big smiles.
You're a good man, Fritz. I can tell you, there hasn't been many only on the fly guides in New Jersey on the coast. At some point, they all have to cater to spin fishermen. And
well, it's not necessarily a cater, because there's just sometimes where a fly bite just doesn't happen, that's just the reality of it. It's like everybody that I've ever taken fishing, and we go solely for on the fly rod. If I brought anybody out, and they're like, hey, let's go catch this on a fly. You're out there for the experience. Sometimes the odds of us catching are, not in our favor. We don't have scent. We don't have, big movement. We don't push a lot of water. I mean, most of the stuff you're throwing is, you know, hair. So if you have fish that are down, 12, 15 feet of water and they're gorging themselves on, giant schools of bunker, you might not be able to get that bite. But if you have them chasing bunker pods all the way to the top of the water, and they're blitzing right on the top, then yeah, fly rod might be in your favor. But I'm not an idiot. If they're not eating the fly, I'm going to throw a spinning rod. I'm not going to go out there and waste my time and your time. You're out there to have fun. You're out there to catch fish. I mean, that's essentially what it is. I mean, every time we go out, we want to catch a fish, and I want to catch them on a fly rod. But if I can't catch them on a fly rod, I have no problem picking up a spinning rod. I have no problem putting a spinning rod in your hand and telling you how to do it and how to catch them. I don't know. I want to catch fish. I want to watch people catch fish. I want to watch people smile, take pictures. There's no point in going out there and just being frustrated, pissed off because it's windy. It's blowing 20 miles an hour. You can't cast a fly rod. You can't whip a, 12-inch fly through the air without catching me or yourself in the back of the head. That's not fun for anybody. But, I mean, if the conditions are right and you can present a fly good, then yeah, by all means, let's have some fun.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think, not only that, but when you're going to be doing the trips for like pike muskies and smallies, how many people can you fit on the boat?
So I could probably get, if it's fly only, probably two. So my jet boat's 16 foot. And the console is all the way in the front. So it's a very pushed up console. Just so where I run the river by me, it's really big rocks, big massive rocks. I want to be able to see them before I hit them. But there's easily enough room for two people casting a fly rod. I mean, spinning rods, I could definitely fish three. If there's two fly rods and a spinning rod, we can fish three. But probably the max that I'm going to take out just for comfortability and just safety is probably two plus V, so three people on the boat.
Okay.
My Pathfinder that I'm going to be running, in the salt, 3-4 guys, easy.
Okay. Any questions, David?
What got into you fly tying?
I have a very addictive personality. If I like something, I can't do it at a level 6. I have to do it at a level 11. That's just it. So I really dove into fly fishing and I loved it. And I really wanted to learn how to tie them. And I just, kind of picked it up. The first kit that I ever bought was a Cabela's kit. I bought like just their $79.99 special kit with a DVD, some stuff to make like pheasant tails and a couple other things. And God, I was god awful at it. I was terrible at it. When I started fly tying, there wasn't really like YouTube. I think it was like 17 at a time, 17 or 18. So like there was like some stuff on YouTube, but not like there is today. And there also wasn't really like the tying classes at the shops. Like maybe there were, but I was just always intimidated to go to them because I would tie a pheasant tail and it just looked like, raccoon scat. It looked like nothing. So I was like, I'm not going to go sit down with these guys and do it. So everything that I generally learned how to do fly tying and fly fishing has been self-taught, reading books, or, just kind of figuring out until I got it. Like, I don't think I've ever really taken a formal casting lesson. The only formal lesson that I ever got was actually from Lefty Craig, who's at one of the fly fishing shows. He was doing a demonstration, and I was standing front and center. And he was talking about, trying to make your fly line hit your rod tip kind of thing. And he was like, who wants to come out and try? And, of course, nobody raised their hand. So he goes, young man, come on out here. And he pointed right at me, and I was like, oh, shit. Here we go. Here it is. But, yeah, so that was the only thing that I ever really got, and the only thing I learned from him is I wasn't turning around looking at my back cast because I was only out there for like 3 seconds. So he was like, I noticed you're not turning around looking at your back cast. I didn't even say anything. He goes, don't. It's hideous. And then he just kind of sent me on my way. Like kind of just being silly and stuff. But that was the only real kind of lesson that I ever got. Everything else was like reading books, watching videos. I would set up a phone and videotape myself casting, and it didn't look like anything that the guys were doing on the videos that I was watching. So it was just trial and error, trial and error, trial and error, trial and error, until I generally just started going further and further and further. And you know, I practice almost every day. At some point in time, you know what I mean. I cast a rod, probably maybe not every day, but probably 5 days a week. I do something, some sort of casting.
It's an excellent segue into my next question, actually. Um, since we're talking about Lefty often took naps in the middle of a long day out in the water, and I just recently actually learned this just a few years ago. He'll lay down and take a nap, and there's pictures of him doing this while the other guy's fishing. You know, and interestingly enough, I actually have done the same thing hundreds of times. I would go out a few miles offshore, and I would just lay on the deck and go to sleep. You know, we're waking up at 3:30 in the morning. I'm taking a nap. I wake up. I'm refreshed, and I can go till dark. So, with that said, is there any weird idiosyncrasies you have or you encounter while you're out there? Do you do as yourself?
Cowtails. Before every fishing trip, I stop a Wawa and I get a cowtail. I don't know why. But I don't know. It started a couple years ago. A buddy of mine, we were up fishing. We were up fishing Pine Creek, and you know, we would stop at this little tiny, I don't even know what the hell it was, this little deli at this little hole in the wall town. And I'd go in there and I'd grab like a protein bar and a coffee, and they just always had these cowtails right there, and I love cowtails. So I would just get one every morning. He said, "Bro, you get a cowtail every morning." Might, you know what I mean? Do you get one every time we go fishing? I started thinking about it. I was like, maybe I do. And then it just kind of stuck. So now, before every fishing trip, when I stop to get gas or whatever I do, I get a cowtail. Nothing bad's happened yet, so I'm not gonna break the routine.
It's funny because a lot of people say fly fishermen aren't really superstitious. They say only like athletes are mostly superstitious.
I beg to differ.
But I think fly fishermen are just as superstitious as athletes. I mean, me in particular, my right boot has to go on before my left boot goes on. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. So it's just funny, you know, that you do the cowtails because I do take naps in the middle of the day. Like you do, you do a lot of travel to Western Pennsylvania, Central PA to do a lot of fishing. So when you wake up at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning to take that drive to be there first thing in the morning to fish the, you know, the early hatch or just to get that spinner fall of tricos out west or Central PA. When you get there, it's the sun's not even up yet, and by the time noon comes around, you're exhausted. So I usually take a nap at least for an hour, either on the bank or in the car, in the truck, or wherever, and that's what I do.
Yeah, Fritz is young.
I got way too much ADHD for that.
It'll as you get older, it'll start.
I'm not that old. I'm only 5 years older than him. It's just a fucking. I'm tired when I drive.
Well, I can tell you this.
I don't do the suicide
Like calling
trips.
me old over here.
You know, I won't do the suicide trips. If I have to spend more time in a car than I'm going to spend on the river, I'm not going. There's plenty of fish closer, a lot closer. More, you know, sometimes bigger fish, sometimes more beautiful fish. They're close to home. Why drive? And this has always been my thing with the West Branch. Is I'll go fish the West Branch if we're spending the night, if we're spending the weekend. But I'm not driving up at 4 o'clock in the morning to fish for 4 hours to drive another 3 hours home. I'm not doing that. I'll drive an hour, fish for 7, and then drive home an hour. You know, a lot closer. Maybe I'm not catching the caliber fish that you catching, but I'm leaving with a shit-eating grin on my face. I'm coming home happy, and I'm not coming home god-awful exhausted, where I can still come home, play with the dogs, hang out with the wife. Driving makes me tired. I don't like doing that. So if I'm going to go, that's always my thing. Like, if I'm going to spend more time in a car than I'm going to spend on the river, I go to a different river, or we turn it into a weekend trip. So, like Pine Creek, for example, we go for like 5 or 6 days, like twice a year, just because I don't want to I don't want to drive 4 hours to fish for a day and a half.
No, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
I want to fish for 5 days and then drive home another 4 hours on whatever day it would be.
Absolutely, and I do the same thing. I mean, when I go out west or Central PA, I'm not going for a day. The
No.
furthest I'm gonna go is maybe, I mean, if the green drakes are happening and I can't get out to Central PA, I'll drive up to the Catskills if I have a chance for a day, day and a half, and then drive home. But that's only a 3 hour trip there, 3 hours back. That's not too bad, and it's an epic hatch if you hit it right. But if I'm going to Central PA, I'm going there for a minimum of 3 days to really
Absolutely.
enjoy myself, to camp out, relax, and really get that fresh. Because I mean, if anybody's been to Central PA or Western PA, the air quality is huge, huge difference. I mean,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah,
I love it out there, man. I really
Yeah.
do. Like that Pine Creek Valley Gorge. Oh my God. It's
I've,
beautiful.
I've,
Beautiful.
I've spent many days on the Susquehanna sleeping in $20 a night hotels, you know, back in the late 90s.
Well,
Um,
a couple years ago, I bought a little pop up camper, just for those trips that we were talking about that are just far enough that I don't want to drive back home, um, but not spend an entire weekend out there. You know what I mean? So you leave Friday after work, it takes you 10 minutes to throw the pop up camper up, take a nap, wake up, fish all day Saturday, and then you drive back home, and it's almost no harm, no foul. You know?
yeah, I've done the same thing at Island Beach State Park. I used to have an Xterra with a mattress in the back, and I do the same stuff. And I would just take fishing trips and sleep in the back for a few hours, and
Yeah,
this way you're not wasting all that drive time, and you could fish more for sure.
absolutely.
Dave told me he had a creepy white minivan with all the all the windows black, and it said "free candy" for anybody that's really
Dave's got
under
a creeper
18.
van.
I'm just kidding. I'm
Dave's
just
got a
kidding.
creeper van. Uh oh.
Put a little red balloon on the side too. You know?
Hey,
I got hollow flies. Come on in, guys.
Fritz, I'm going to ask this question to everybody, and I've asked it to many people. I think I know the answer to this. So what's your favorite fish what's your favorite fish to catch on the fly?
If I have a gun to my head, if I had to pick one fish to catch for the rest of my life on a fly rod, probably a brook trout.
Nice.
Probably a brook trout. The second would be a striper, but I'm a brook trout junkie, man. I love my brook trout.
Man, we need to book a trip to Labrador. I've been wanting to go there
Dude.
since I was a kid, dude.
You say the word and I'm in.
No.
Take my money. Take my money.
Skating mouse patterns on top water.
I don't even know what I would. I don't even know what I would do with a 5-pound brook trout. I would have no idea. I'd probably.
I mean,
cry.
just
Tears of joy.
the brook trout will be this big.
No, it'd be bigger than that, dude.
They have them up to like 32 inches up there.
Yeah.
They're massive.
Yeah, I've been dreaming of trips like that. I'm not a big trout guy, but there's only a few trips I'd ever do, like mega trips. One would be to Labrador, the other one would be to Alaska for steelhead.
See, if I'm going to go to Alaska, I want to catch a fish that I cannot catch here. You know what I mean? I want to catch like a Dolly Varden, or like a really lit up Arctic char.
You
Like
can't
something that-
you can't catch a steelhead here though.
Not in Jersey.
No.
Can't
you
hear,
drive, You drive 3.5 hours away and you're in New York and you catch them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are not steelhead. Those are lake run trout.
They're lake run rainbows.
They're not real.
Keep 'em-
I'm talking ocean
Run.
run fish. It's a completely different animal than it is a steelhead in its DNA, and it will fight a little bit like a steelhead, but not like the ones. If you catch them out west, it's a whole different.
like British Columbia or something.
British Columbia or Oregon, like that. Like Oregon is like my trip, or Washington. You burns with the nice
Yeah.
rainy weather, and you're fucking swinging for like 4 or 5 days to hook one fish. Like I wouldn't give a shit if I didn't catch a fish. Down the road I would be like, oh fuck, I didn't catch a fish. But
That's a lot of thousands of dollars to not.
It's
not take
just-
a picture.
But you know what? At the same time, it doesn't have to be that expensive, because if you do your research and you figure out which streams you can fish and when you could fish them, and which ones you need permit for, or which ones you don't, you could honestly do everything you do here on the East Coast when you go trout fishing. You could get cheap motels, you could get tent sites, and you just camp out and just do your trip on your own and just hunt for the fish yourself. You just got to do the research, you know.
And
And
I
I
think that's a big problem. And I think this generation, not even just when I say generation, I don't mean like age range, but like this whole era of fly fishing, this whole era of fishing in general, is nobody wants to do the research. Everybody wants to chase a report.
Yep.
Everybody wants everything done for them, all the information done for them. Like I love cracking the code, right? I love solving that puzzle. Figuring out what it is. And like this is a true story. Last week I went fishing with a buddy of mine, and we were striper fishing and throwing big stuff. Didn't move a single fish. We went into this little tiny back creek that is, I don't know, maybe 8 foot wide, and I threw on what looks like a woolly bugger. And this is what we were catching big stripers on. This is a size 4, but this was just cracking that code. That's all it was. That entire day was just kind of like putting together the pieces to the puzzle. We figured it out. We had a couple fish 30 inches or bigger in the beginning of March. Um, on that itty bitty. I like that. I like cracking that code. Like I don't care if that was the only fish that I caught. I figured it out. Same thing with with every aspect of fishing. I like cracking the code. I like figuring out the piece to the puzzle. More than I like just saying somebody going, hey, they're at whatever street, throw yellow deceivers, you'll catch them in the surf. That's fun. That's cool. But I like the puzzle. I like the challenge kind of thing.
So since we're talking about you're talking about a fly, uh, my question to that I kind of ask everybody I fish with, if you could fish one fly for every species that you could fish for, what is that one fly pattern?
Clouser minnow.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've caught more fish on a clouser minnow than I think I've caught on any other fly than all other flies combined. Um, I'll take that to the grave. That I'm almost positive of that. I've caught everything from tarpon to bluegill on a clouser minnow.
That is my favorite fly as well. You could
I'd say
literally even go for carp. You just tie them in a smaller pattern. Same thing with
yeah,
bonefish,
or you
smaller
tie it
pattern.
Sure.
you tie it. I mean, you tie it on a different hook so it's higher up right in the water for
Right.
for your carp.
I got
That's it.
I got clousers just for redfish.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know. Like everyone when I lived down in Florida, I fished a clouser 90% of the time. Everyone else was tying these super expensive brush flies, with these foxy brushes, and I mean, what's the price of a foxy brush now? Like 17.95 for a pack of them, or some astronomical price.
Yeah.
Clousers,
Oh, we have a question
clousers.
coming in from the audience. Johnny's got a question. What
Johnny?
made you guys start fly fishing? We'll start with Dave because Dave's been quiet the whole night.
You guys been talking, that's why. So I got started fishing probably in my teen years. I could have been doing it earlier, but I was told my mentor, he took me under the wing when I was about like 10 or 11 years old. I used to fish the Hudson River at 125th and Broadway, which is up in Harlem. That's when I started fishing. I started fishing with bucktail jigs, and it was just slaying them. You see I call them bottom fishermen. The guys are just sitting on the pier there, just sitting there on their baits and just sit there and fish. Me, the little guy, just coming in with my bucktails and just first cast, I got a bass, and they just looking at me, pissed off, like, look at this little guy coming in and just catching fish. And what get them even more madder, I would throw the fish back. And they will be asking me, how come you couldn't give it to me? And I said, no, I'm throwing it back. I'm waiting for him to get bigger so I could catch him again. So when I started fly fishing, I would tell my mentor, Kenny Sutherland, which he can't fish anymore because he got a little older. So he was like, "Dave, get into it, get into it." I said, "Nah, that's all right. I'll stick with my spinner." Then eventually he said, "You know what? I'll give it a try." You know. Then he taught me how to cast and this, and then eventually he told me to get into tying. Hey, Dave, what about you tying some flies? And I'm like, okay, I guess I can do that. I said, why not? I'll give it a try. Then I started tying my own flies. And then he's like, wow, you tie pretty flies. I said, all right. I said, but they will catch fish. I said, yeah, of course they're gonna catch fish. You got to have confidence in your flies. Okay, you got guys that are top flies, and I don't think it's gonna catch a fish, and they'll right ahead go and toss it. And I said, what you do that for? Don't toss it, man. You gotta have confidence in your flies, man. Just throw it out there, and you see eventually you're gonna catch you're gonna catch a fish. Just keep at it. And then I've been fly fishing ever since. I haven't even picked up a spinning rod yet. I got so hooked into it. Same thing with the fly tying. It's just been nonstop. So my first vice was a Dying King Barracuda. I know everybody starts and they advise everybody to buy this vice. It's not that much, but why buy an inexpensive one when you can get the one you want? So I did the opposite. I got the one I wanted, so I spend a little more money, so I don't have to go buy that first one. And now I got that first one sitting there, which I can leave it for my kids or whatever. But I said, nah, I'm gonna go with the top notch vice that you have back then, which was the Dying King Barracuda. And I got it, and I had it like for
You still
20, 25 years. I had that vice, and it's still working with no problem. But eventually, after a while, you get older, you get tired, you want a new toy. So I decided, to buy a new vice, and I got the HMH TRV, and ever since I touched that, I love it now, So those are the vices I was just having and just using, and that's it. I won't buy another vice again, because I'm already up, getting there up in that age. Why should I buy another vice, which I have two top-notch vices that does everything, holds up to an 8/0 all the way down to a size 32. That's all you need, basically,
So Joe, what made you go into fly fishing?
Well, so I'm actually older.
Well, before we go any further, your name is Only on the Fly. So if I hear that you used to be a spin rod fisherman, you're no longer allowed to call yourself Only on the Fly.
Well,
I know on the fly.
well, if I'm ever aboard one of Fritz's outings, he'll never see me pick up a spin rod. I'd rather go back to the port. I'd rather just sit there and I'll captain Fritz around so he can spin fish. I don't mind it. Listen, I've been out tuna fly fishing. I've gone out in the boat and come back without even making a cast. But anyway, to the question is what made me start fly fishing. So it's a funny story. I mean, it goes back to an era when most of you guys were in diapers. Back then there was books. You heard of things. Jerry McInnes, I don't know if you knew who that was, but he had a show a long time ago in the 80s, and he fly fished sometimes. But my friend, growing up, we had in my neighborhood, we had awesome friends. I mean, there was probably about 20 of us, and we're all around within a year or two. And I had one friend, Jason, his father fly fishing. His whole back room was set up, and it was all trout stuff. So having parties at the house, messing around with his stuff, and eventually I'm like, I got to try this. So I did it the old school way. All right, I bought some books. It was because it was wintertime. I bought some books. I actually built that Lefty Cray casting tool with the yarn, and I would practice. And then finally I bought a starter outfit, and then I would practice casting them in my backyard. And then it went to a pond, and without any flies on whatsoever. It was just a pond with a line, just casting. And that's how it started. And it was I'll tell you the end of the story is that my buddy Matt, who one of my good friends, and we fished many days at the Susquehanna, and he would always spin fish, but he was driving by this pond, this shithole pond one time, and he's like, he comes over and we're sitting there drinking a beer, and he's like, "You'll never guess what I saw today. I saw some idiot out in this pond fly casting. Like I don't know what he's thinking. He's gonna catch trout. Like what the hell is he doing?" And I'm just sitting there laughing. I'm like, and I busted out the flyer. I said, "Yeah, that was me, man." I said, "I'm only gonna fish on the fly now. That's all I'm doing." So I mean, that's how I got into it. And of course, in that era of the late '80s, early '90s, you had the flip pallet shows, and as many of us, man, we was mesmerized Saturday mornings watching flip in the middle of nowhere in the Keys, casting to these big tarpon like in bonefish. It was unbelievable. It was like it was like, man, only if I had the balls. When I graduated high school, I should have just freaking left and went to the Keys. You know what I mean? I would have been in that. I would have grew up in that whole upbringing of that era of fly fishing for tarpon. Man, I should have just freaking taken off and just tried to figure it out down there. But of course, that doesn't work. And I married my girlfriend, had kids, and that's how that ends. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got started. What about you, Georgie?
I got out of the service, and when I got out of the service, I started messing around with the spinning rod, fishing for largemouth. Because you like you said, you turn on the TV on Saturday morning or Sunday, and if there was nothing else on, you would see Bill Dance tossing his
Yep.
big whatever big lippers in there and catching these giant bass, and I'm like, shit, I wanna catch me some bass. So I got into fishing because of that, and big part of it was PTSD rehab. They always talked about, hey, find a hobby, keep yourself interested, so you don't get affected. So I got into fishing that way, and then I'm there was a posted at a one of the events I went to or whatever it was for fishing. I think it was at Manasquan Reservoir. They had like a big tournament. They had a thing posted for Project Healing Waters. It said it was for vets, and they're having a meeting at the Pequest. So I said, "Fuck, I'll fucking sign up. I'll go up there and see what's going on." So I happened to go up there, and I met a famous photographer that shot a lot of photos for Drake magazine by the name of Tim Geist.
Oh, wait, I got to stop you there. So Tim and I were good friends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got a bunch of photos. We used to go out in each other's boats, and he would call me Tourette's.
Yeah, he had his boat in Seaside.
Yeah, he would call me Tourette's Joe because you guys don't notice about me because we haven't fished together yet. But when I catch a fish, I start yelling and screaming expletives like you haven't heard. Like I don't know what it is. Like I'll yell it loud. Like I remember. Anyway, so Tim Geist, man, we were good partners for a long time, man. He snapped a couple. We used to go to the shows and we used to get hotel rooms, like the whole bit. And I'm trying to figure out because I posted on Facebook not too long ago because I saw a photo that he took of some of my flies. I'm like, dude, the last I heard of Tim Geist was that because he, I don't know if you know his wife, but she was Japanese, and I thought that he packed it up and moved to Japan, and I just like he fell off the face of the earth. Like, do you know what's going on, or have you heard from him?
So the last I heard, and this is how my journey kind of went with life, and Dave knows this. I've hopped jobs to jobs to jobs till I found what I have now, just because I've had seriously fucking terrible luck with work. But last I knew was he was a electrician for the union, and he gave that gig up to become a professional photographer.
Well, he's always been a pro photographer in my mind. He had his own Facebook page and everything.
Well, he went like pro, like that's all.
Really?
He's like, I'm done doing work. I'm going photography only.
Brad Buzzy told me a story, and we'll get back to Fritz in a second, but Brad told me a story about TC Geist, that he started some kind of fly company too, like boxing up before it was even a thing. Like he would put together materials in a box and like you would order it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I met him at the outing along with David Bupko, and David Bupko was like the the guy that was running the Project Healing Waters for
Yeah.
like Atlantic Highlands area, and that's where I lived at the time. So Dave introduced me to this guy called by the name of Lefty, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this old guy, and why is he hanging out with us? I don't understand. He could be old enough to be Dave's grandpa. I don't know. He's got this goofy hat on. I just don't get it." And years down the road, I found out I was hanging out with Lefty Craig at Dave Bupko's house because Lefty would often come and visit him in Leonardo, and they used to go fish the Raritan Bay together
Wow.
for striped bass. And so David Bupko got me into tying a little bit, and with Tim took me out on a boat, and my first striper was hooked on a fly rod. And he goes, "I'll take you out. Come on, I'll take you out." So he took me out on the boat. And that was the only time I've ever fished for stripers out of a boat. And the first cast, I had a striper on, and he took a run, and I go to reel. And since he was a lefty, his reel was on this side. I couldn't stop the fish. The fish took off, broke the leader, and that was the end. I said, "Well, why would you not tell me your reel's on the opposite side?" So that moment right there, having that big fish on really hooked me. And later that day, I went and bought a fly rod, and I fished a fly rod since. I do spinning gear in the fall. If the fish are way out of range, I don't have a boat. So if I'm fishing from the beach, I do bring a spinning rod with me in case they're not close, just so I hook up fish. And in the fall, once in a while, I like to jig for giant stripers that come through the canal in Point Pleasant. But I would say 90% of the time I'm fishing a fly rod for whatever fish it is. So,
we got a good question here, but before we get to that question, my final question to Fritz, and this is something I've been thinking about. So Fritz, you're educated, you have a decent career. I mean, your new venture of getting into guiding, I mean, is it scary? Like I wish if I could dial back time, when I was younger, it's something that I envisioned at some point, but now I'm glad I didn't go and get into guiding because I'd rather catch fish. But I mean, how does it feel like you're are you scared like changing your whole career around?
It's scary laying on my deathbed going, damn, I wish I would have done that.
Yeah.
That's scary. So my job, my current job is I'm a child therapist. I work with kids birth to 3 with developmental delays. That ain't going away.
Okay.
I always have work. Always have work. And what's cool about my job is, I can do it per diem. Like I don't have to do it salaried. I don't have to do, this rigid 9 to 5. And like my job right now is pretty cool. I get to make my own schedule. I run off productivity. So like as long as like my company gives me like a quota that I have to meet every month. You have to bill for X amount of hours every month, which is cool. Because they don't tell me when or how I need to get it done. Like I don't work past 2 o'clock on Tuesdays. And I don't work past 1 o'clock on Fridays. I work late Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Tuesdays and Fridays, I'm done early. I get to go fish, right? And now if this guiding stuff really starts taking off and I need to do more, I could tune my hours back. I could leave my salary position to go down to per diem, and work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just so I have some sort of consistent income, and then keep Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to take people fishing. But my job, to answer your question, my job is really stressful. I see things that most people don't see. I see some of the most medically involved kids that it sucks. And my territory is primarily in Trenton, so I go into some really rough neighborhoods. I see shit that most people don't see. And when people ask me, one of the reasons that I don't want kids is because I get to see all of that. And it's scary, and that's intimidating, and it's stressful. There's some days I want to come home and just not talk to anybody because of some of the shit that I've seen, or like some of the kids that I'm working with. Like I've worked with kids that have a life expectancy of 4 years. I had one of my kids that I seen. He was a little boy with Down syndrome. He had a heart attack. Like that shit sucks, really, really, really bad. Um, and yeah, it's taxing. I'd love to just wake up and meet you at the boat ramp, and we go around and we chase stripers, or you meet me at the shop. You jump in my car and we go pull up to a trout stream, and I teach you how to roll cast. And the stressful part of my day is whether or not you caught a fish. I need something like that because the job that I'm doing now, the burnout is real. It is really real, really quick. Because it's not like I just have a job that I can, close the door on Friday and I don't have to think about it till Monday. My job requires me to think like, okay, well, I have this little girl who's 2.5 and she's still not doing this. How do I get her to do it? And I lose sleep over shit like that sometimes. I can't turn that switch off. You know what I mean? And I don't want to do that for the rest of my life, and I just don't. So, going into a venture that I'm extremely passionate about, am I scared? No, not really. I'm pretty good at it. I'm a good teacher, by trade. Um, and plus, I'd be more afraid of laying on my deathbed and going, I wish I would have done that, or 50 years from now, doing something, waking up every day and just doing that mind-numbing shit every single day. That's scary. But money can be made. I always have something to fall back on. Like you said, I'm educated. So say it doesn't take off, I go find a job. I don't know. That's just my view on it.
That's an excellent view, actually. Loved it. Dave, you want to read off some of the questions?
Dave can't see questions.
Oh, we can't see?
No, I can't see them.
Question coming in from Cam Foster for you, Fritz, is
What's up, Cam? Yeah.
Cam's my boy.
Talk
Yes.
about Florida. He's thinking about moving to the Keys after he graduates.
Not bad.
So Florida's fun, dude. I lived down there for about a year. I loved it. Loved it. I wish, you know what I mean. There's, parts of me that wish we never came back. But it's a good time, man. Florida's cool because you could go literally anywhere, any day of the year and catch fish. It's just everywhere. There's days where we would go out and I did nothing but chase ladyfish because there was these giant schools of like 20 to 24-inch ladyfish, and we were catching them on 5 and 6 weights. And they're poor man's tarpon. They're jumping clean out of the water.
Yep.
Where I lived, I was down in St. Pete. So we had beautiful snook, beautiful redfish, beautiful trout. A lot of tarpon, a lot of juvenile tarpon down there, which was really fun. But it was every flat that you went to had fish. You could fish 365 days a year because it rains all the time, but it only rains for an hour, right? So, you have to tuck under a bridge for an hour or two, and then it's sunny again. Get a boat if you're going to move to Florida. That is the best advice I can give you, is save your money and get a boat. When we moved down there, this is a true story. We signed our lease for March 1st. We flew down there. We signed our lease on March 1st. But we weren't moving down there until I think March 15th. On March 1st, we signed the lease. I got in the car, went and test drove a boat, paid the guy to drop it off at our driveway, and we had a boat before we had a couch. We had no furniture, but there was a boat in the driveway. Yeah, we did. We had a beautiful
He
boat
says
in the
you
driveway.
gotta have a boat if you live in Florida. So we
Yeah.
had no furniture, but we had a fucking goddamn boat.
We slept on an air mattress for 3 weeks. That's a fucking true story. But we fished every day for 3 weeks. It's just a lot of fun. You know what I mean? The Keys are great because you have such a variety of fish down there, and you're really close to that Gulf Stream, or any kind of the streams. 3 miles off, and you're in blue water. You could catch mahi, tuna, everything on the fly, and still see the beach. Everything is right there. A lot of fun that you could do down there, man, is if you get on top of some of them wrecks and you chub those big amberjacks out and pitch some flies back to the big amberjacks. That's a good time. That's a really, really good time. if he does write another question, or if he answers this question, ask him how his boot prototype is coming along. I've been following him online, and it looks like
Yeah.
it's coming together pretty nice.
It does. I remember him talking about that.
He just won some kind of award. I seen it on there.
Yeah.
Like he won some big award. That was really neat.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, maybe you can do a follow-up question.
Oh, Cam, I will tell you, if you are going to move down there and you're going to do any kind of fishing with bucktails, buy 1,000 of them from Brad before you move, because there is zero, and I tell you, fucking zero good bucktail in Florida.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all. They use synthetics down there.
Everything is synthetic. So, like when
Yeah.
I moved down there, like I mean, this is a fly. I don't know how good you guys are going to see this with the light, but this is a pilchard that I tied down there for. Try to get this on. Yeah, for the snook down there. You know, that's a pilchard. You know, that's a greenback. But like a lot of these guys, they're fishing EP stuff.
EP. Yeah.
Yeah, and brush flies, and I like bucktail. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So I brought.
Yeah,
I brought that
if you look at
bucktail.
any videos for the Florida guys or even like the Caribbean, a lot of those guys do a lot of synthetics. They do
Well,
not like to use natural materials.
It's not
they can't
that.
get it.
They can't
They
get
can't
it,
get it.
George. Yeah.
You
Just
can't
think
get-
But
know,
I mean,
there's
you
no
could
brand
order the
now.
shit online. Like
you can
could
now,
order-
but they don't.
No, you can't. Have you ever really ordered a bucktail online?
I
Like a
have.
Yeah, I
you're-
have.
You're on,
I
drugs.
never. You know what it is? I have. I've ordered a lot of bucktail online, and every time I get it, I'm like, I'm never doing it again. And then I
Well-
see a
And that's
color.
my thing.
Then I
and
see
that's
a
my thing, you
color that I
can't do
really
it.
want, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe if I tell them exactly what I want, they'll be able to pick through them and give them to me.
I need
And
to pull it
still
apart.
hasn't happened.
I need to
So-
feel that it's stiff, you know. So, but again, there was this kid down there that I fished with. His name was Joey Perez. Amazing fly tie, amazing fly tie. But him and I were the only people down there fishing holler flies, and we were raking fish. We were killing fish. There was a day that we fished this grass flat, and we were catching. I don't even know how many trout, like big trout, 24, 26 inches, like just gator trout down there. And they were inhaling 7-inch flies, 7-inch holler flies, just ripping them across these grass flats. And they were coming out of the grass and rifling them. And I mean, every so often we'd get into a big red or a big snook, but we just couldn't leave. I mean, how could you leave catching, you know, these big gator trout on 7 weights? I mean, chucking these massive flies in gin clear water. Like, I mean, just ridiculously gin clear water. You know, 60-foot cast, 70-foot cast, and 2 or 3 strips, and you're watching this fish come out and just annihilate your fly from that far away. Like, that's how clear it was. So we really started diving into some of these smaller style, you know, hollow flies for like the pilchards and stuff, to imitate those greenbacks. And we weren't catching a lot of fish, but most of the fish that we caught, most of the snook that we caught were big, really big, because it imitated a bigger profile than these tiny little EPs. And I think they push a lot more water than those high and tight, you know, EP flies. But yeah, it was really cool. So like, what I was telling you earlier, Joe, right before we came on, is my parents rented a house down there in Bayville for the entire month of July.
Right.
So I had flown home from Florida, you know, just to go spend some time with them. And we went out to eat. We went out to eat at Shady Rest. And so I was talking to Bob, and I was telling him that, you know, I was teaching classes down there. I was, you know, at the shops to teach them how to, you know, manipulate bucktail and stuff like that. And so him and I were talking for probably about an hour and a half about just not fish bucktail. You know, and so I went back to eat with my parents, and they had already eaten. They were just sitting at the bar drinking. And he walked up to me, and he handed me 2 flies from his personal box.
Nice.
So this is an eel that came out of his box, and then this is one of his big bulkheads. But like, I mean, you can't tell here, but some of this bucktail's got to be 7 or 8 inches long. Just a behemoth of a fly.
Yeah,
they came out of his box, and it was pretty cool that he was like, yeah, man, take this down to the boys in Florida and show them this. You know, but like, if you look at this steel fly, like, that is all one strand, like 1 length bucktail. That is the longest bucktail I've ever seen.
You know what we call that, Fritz? And
El Presidentes.
Yes. Brad's
the
on.
El Presidente.
Yeah. By
That's
the way,
Brad. That's the Brad
is
Buzzy
on.
presidential tails.
Yeah.
Brad is on, and he said if anybody needs any bucktails, they're more than welcome to come by his house. He lives over in Normandy, New Jersey. So if you guys do need a bucktails and you do want to take the drive to Brad's house,
Tell him I'll
just
see you next
shoot
week.
him a DM on Facebook Messenger, and
Right.
he's going to be
Brad.
processing another
Yeah,
1,000 starting Monday.
Brad, if you're watching, I need this. You see the length of that? I
Yeah.
need that
He's
right
got
there.
it.
This is
All right,
what I need.
We got more questions. We got questions coming out the wazoo now. Johnny's asking another question. He says, what's the biggest fish you've ever caught with a fly rod? And we'll go to our guest, Fritz. Go ahead, start.
Probably a shark. Probably a shark. You know, either I think it was a black tip or, you know, one of the sharks that we caught off seaside. He was either dusky or a spinner. But yeah, probably a shark. That's probably the biggest thing I've ever caught on a fly rod. Other than that, you know, a couple really big stripers, big salmon. Yeah, I'd say the shark probably. Yeah, the shark probably has to take the cake on that.
So Joe did a lot of hunting for big fish. So I'm curious of what Joe's gonna say.
Well, mine's a funny story.
82-pound fucking tarpon.
Honestly, I jumped a lot of tarpon, and me and Cam could talk about it. I got a few nighttime hot spots for tarpon down in Florida. I spent a lot of time down there. My dad lives down there. Anyway, so it's a funny story. Brad might get a load of this. So back in like the mid 2000s, maybe 2008 era, we had in the spring, we had giant pods of adult bunker literally lined up from Manasquan Inlet all the way down to Barnegat. And you'd have tarpon roll, or not tarpon. You'd have big stripers rolling through them, right? And then you'd have the boats pulling up to them, live line. That's back when you can live line, right? So you would snag and drop. You would snag the bunker, drop it down, and these guys were bailing bass, you know. And it was a funny thing. I wanted to catch one. I wanted to call one of these bass up from the depths of hell. So I had this big popper, and I still have it. And I would cast this popper. I was using a 12 weight. And I would cast this popper across the top of the bunker schools. And I would just rip it and rip it and rip it and rip it. And for literally, I remember this one day, it was literally like an hour. And then we're right next to Captain Gene Quigley. And he's yelling, you know, because his guys are bailing bass left and right, snagging and dropping. And he's yelling, "You're never going to catch a bass on top water like that." Soon as he said that, soon as he finished, a bass out of nowhere rolled up on my popper. And Andrew, who maybe we interviewed at one time, he was there. He was on the boat, and I nailed this fish. And I got pictures of it. I'll have to show you one day. I mean, it's a huge fish. I mean, it goes from where my chest is all the way down to the floor, and his tail was hanging on the floor. I couldn't even lift him properly. And I mean, he had to have been, you know, better than 35 pounds. I mean, the thing was unbelievable. On a 12 weight. I mean, I had him to the boat within like 5 minutes, right? I whipped his ass real fast. I mean, if anybody knows me, I try to fight fish as hard as you can. And I've lost a lot of big fish because I don't like to play them. You know, I like to get them in and I horse them, and I've broken tippets, and I'll lose fish and pull the hooks. But that's probably the biggest fish I ever caught.
When you say Andrew who?
Not Andrew Warsher, but Andrew Hamilton. He's a manager at Orvis. In fact, he just
He's my manager.
He's what?
He's my manager. He just moved to the Princeton.
Princeton,
store, right?
yeah. He just moved to Princeton.
He's my manager now.
Yeah. So him and I, we fished a lot, and in fact, he used to work in the Yellow Bean here when they started down here in Marlton. That's where he first started, and then he went to Orvis. Well, him and I spent many nights and many days together, boat, not boat, whatever. We kind of fished a lot together. So anyway, that's my big fish story. It's not a tarpon. I've jumped several big tarpon, never landed one. I wish it was a tarpon. That's my favorite fish in the whole world. And that's that. So Brad Buzzy says you're dreaming. Who's dreaming? I think Brad, if Brad like had 3,000 bucktails and drove to Florida, he would literally sell out and then drive home with no bucktail.
He could sell them for $50 a piece too, because those dudes wouldn't have a clue in hell what to do with a 9-inch bucktail. They would lose their mind. They get these little rat things like this, you know, and it's just shit quality. It's all, I don't know, man. Like, they have some really good colors. I'm not gonna lie. They do a lot of really good colors down there, but you're not getting anything longer than 4 inches. You're not, and you're not getting anything that's got any kind of volume to it. Like, the hairs are so sparse. You know, it's kind of like if you were to go to get bucktail from, and I hate
on the internet.
I work there, but from Orbis. Like, Orbis just, I mean, it's very cliche.
But if you have decent 4-inch bucktail, this whole 24-inch beast is made out of 4-inch bucktail. Well, let me
But you're not
in Florida.
You're not fishing that in Florida.
Right.
I mean, maybe for cobia, you get some cobia to come in. But I mean, if you look at a lot of your bait fish are between 4 and 6 inches.
Yeah, it's all small.
Your pilchards, your thread fins, you know, your pinfish, you know, and that's why the EP flies work so good down there, because they give that really high and tight profile of a pinfish or a sand perch. You know, that's what those fish are feeding on. They're not feeding on fucking adult bunker. You know, like even off the beach, like my biggest snook off the beach. Let me see if I can even find the fucking fly. I don't even know if I'll be able to find it. My biggest snook off the beach was on this little rat shrimp fucking stupid little thing, and it was I don't know, 36 inches. And it ate something this big. That's what they eat, you know. So it was really cool. It was like when I lived down there after the red tide, they were saying that one of the only good things that comes from red tide is the shrimp get massive. The shrimp get really, really big because all the shit dies, and what doesn't float goes down to the bottom, and the shrimp just gorge themselves on it. So at night you have these massive shrimp that are popping across the top of the water, and that's what the big snook and that's what the big tarpon are eating. So you would have a lot of guys that would you know, go out at night with these headlamps in the flats, and they would just net these big shrimp, and I'm talking like massive shrimp, like micro lobsters. And then they would take them to the passes, like, you know, the bridges and the inlets and shit, and just free line these massive shrimp down current and catch these massive tarpon every night. But yeah, so I did find this fly. This is where we were catching all those trout on that one day. I mean, just this big hollow thing. You know what I mean? It's all wispy and ratted up now. Half the bucktail's missing, the hooks rusted to shit just from sitting in my thing. But it was funny that we caught all those big trout on that, and then like 3 days later, I caught that massive snook on a size 4 shrimp.
Interesting.
Yeah. What about you, Dave? What's the biggest fish you ever caught?
So I had a girlfriend in Melbourne, Florida. I used to visit, and I asked her.
Shit, he's talking about the
There we
girlfriend.
go.
This is not good.
Back in the 2000s.
Gotta
Back in the
be
2000s.
That's the fish he caught, a big girlfriend.
No. So I used to go
That's where I
visit
thought
her
he was
time
going
to
with. I
time.
said, damn, he's going there, huh?
So she lived in Melbourne, Florida, and not too far was the Indian River. Was there, and I asked her, "Hey, where's I need a fishing store, but like a fly shop store." She said, "Oh yeah, it's over here, I guess." So she took me there, spoke to the guy. I hired a guy to take me out, so he took me out. Went up to Indian River. I was catching blues and jacks. Then he tells me, "Hey Dave, what about hooking up a bull shark?" And I said, "Hell yeah, let's go." So there's like certain spots on the Indian River that the bull shark hangs out. So he took me there. I hooked in the blue. I'm reeling him in. Next you know, my line drops dead. I'm like, holy shit. Something got it. He said, Dave, reel him in, bring him in quick. The bluefish is in half. He said, the bull shark is nearby. Throw him back in. I said, okay, but you know, I'm not gonna really, nothing gonna happen because it's a bull shark. I'm with a 9 weight. That's not gonna do anything. I said, that's all right. I just want to hook him to have fun. Actually, I did hook them. You know, I'm just reeling like nothing, and next you know, there goes my line, boop, and that was it. But most likely, it was the bull shark though. But I wish I would have saw him, but you know, I didn't have the gear for it. So that's my story.
Did you
Say
get
that again.
spooled or it broke your line?
No, he popped. No, he
He
broke my
popped.
line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he broke my line. So that's my biggest fish was the bull shark, and then after that,
Wow.
it's the salmon up in DSR. You
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah.
the king
I've been
salmons.
there. Yep.
Yep. So I've been there since 1989, right after high school. I've been going up there. You know, and I used to
Nice.
sleep up there too.
Nice.
After catching all those fish, I would set up a rock and just lay there and fall and go to sleep, and then I'll get up again and start fishing again. You know. What
Uh,
about you, George? What's your biggest fish on a flat rod?
it was a 38.25 pound striped bass.
Nice.
Nice.
Um, and that was the biggest one I landed. I've had bigger ones on. It's just where I fish with the current that runs through there. It's really hard to land them on the fly rod unless you find a soft pocket. So a lot of times you end up breaking your line and losing your fly. But or they just go down and just start shaking their heads and they break you off on whatever's fucking down wherever they're fucking sitting at. But yeah, 38.25 was the biggest.
Not bad.
Um,
Not bad.
we do have a question from Manny here for Fritz.
Manny.
He's
Nice.
asking if you guide newbies. If so, what's your approach on those who want to start under your guidance?
So I'm a teacher by trade, Manny. I love to teach. I love to teach. Depends what you want to fish for. If you said that you wanted to start fishing trout, I would probably take you to a stream by my house, and we would go catch sunnies on a trout stream. It's a trout stream. They stock it with trout, but they only live there for probably about 2 months before the heat kills them off or the people take them all. But it's loaded with these green ear sunfish, and they're some of them get pretty big, but it's the same fishing style, right? I would teach you how to roll cast, teach you how to bend, teach you line control, strike detection, everything while you're still catching fish, right? Because if I were to bring you on a trout stream for your first time, you never had a fly rod in your hand, it's exceedingly frustrating, it's exceedingly difficult, and you're probably going to say, fuck this. But if we went out there and you caught 70 fish, I mean, even if they're just little sunnies, you caught 70 of them, you get confidence, right? You're having fun, you're having a good time, your confidence goes up. I'd probably take you there once, twice, maybe 3 times, depending on how much you picked it up, before I brought you to a trout stream. Because when I do bring you to a trout stream, I want you to have a good time. If you've never picked up a fly rod, if you've never casted a fly rod, if you have no idea how to control the line, what to look for on a strike, what the word mend even means, we're not going to have fun. You're not going to have fun. I'm not going to have fun because you're not having fun. And that just sucks for all parties involved. I'm going to bring you somewhere where we're going to have a good time, where you're going to get the fundamentals down. And then once we get the fundamentals down, we'll take you to somewhere a little bit more practical. So like when I teach the fly fishing classes at the Orbis store, the first day we go to a field. We don't ever touch water. We go to a field and I have you cast into cardboard cutouts of fish. Then, if you like it, you come back for the 201 class. In the 201 class, I take you to a pond. And at the pond, that's where we take what we learned in the field and put it into practice on the water. But with the trout stuff, I bring you to a stream just so you start to get the understanding of moving water. How water affects your line, how the different currents work. Starting to look at, water to understand where the trout sit. Because your sunnies are going to be in the same exact water that you trout are. So, but yeah, if that was something that you're interested in, please, I'll have George or have you reach out to me and we'll get you set up. I'll get you out.
I want to comment on what Fritz said about he's a good teacher. You know what? He's damn right. I watched some of his videos. Like I've been wanting to go to Streams of Dreams with him and do some fly tying with him, but it's so damn far from my house. But you saw me chimed in, and I tell you, man, I suck at teaching, and Fritz has got it. Like he explains everything, helps you. Like I'd rather pick up a book and read it and then just do it. Like I can't teach others, but Fritz has it. He can teach, man. He's a great teacher.
There's definitely people that are teachers and instructors, and there are people that are just people that could show you, but they can't put the words together to put the work and the words together to put it all into one. And
Right.
a lot of those, I mean, if you're a type of person that is good with hands-on, that might work for you. But in my opinion, a teacher has to be all around good in order for you to learn properly. Um, because if the teacher can't explain it, a lot of times I'm like, well, I don't understand what you're doing. So there's definitely special people. Like you have musicians and teachers are the same way, and
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
they go a long way. So that runs down our questions. I'm gonna start wrapping it up a little bit. I just want to give a big shout out. I have some old fans from back in the day that jumped in. Munchkin Queen. She used to call herself Munchkin Queen, and Scuba. Scuba's actually a fisherman. I think he's in Florida or Virginia, but he did fight. He said he fought a sailfish for over an hour. Um, so, uh, yeah, pretty cool. And thank you for guys for coming in and saying hello. I haven't talked to them in years. Um, Anybody else have any questions for Fritz before we completely kill it and wrap it up?
Well, I just wanted to wish Fritz good luck, man. And savor this time, this guiding experiences that you have, and friendships you make, you know, and just have a blast.
I appreciate it, man. I
Same
definitely
here,
thank you
man.
for
Same
everything.
here.
Yeah.
Same here. Good luck. And tomorrow will be my first flying time class I'll be teaching.
You're
Hopefully
gonna love
that
it, man. It's fun.
hopefully that'll go well.
It's fun. Like I said, if I could teach, I've explained this to people all the time. When you do your flight time classes, people are there to have fun, and half the time they don't really give a shit with their time. They
Right.
don't.
Okay.
They don't. It's they're happy to be out of the house. They're happy to be that, like the camaraderie of everybody sitting around a table. Um, it's not about the fly, and you're gonna learn that really quick. That when these
Okay.
people come to these classes, that they're not necessarily leaving with the mindset that like I need to go there and learn how to tie this fly. That's
Right.
just second. That's just secondary. They're there for the camaraderie. They're there for the conversation. They're there for the networking. Like I have a lot of like repeat people that come up to see me at Stream of Dreams. It's 4 or 5 of the same people and then a couple extras. But it's the hangout. It's the camaraderie. It's that sitting around the table, kind of doing what we're doing now, but everything is
Yes.
just face to face. You just have a vice in front of you.
Okay.
You're gonna enjoy it. It's very laid back. It's not stressful. Don't beat yourself up over it. Don't get anxious about it. Just go there and put some feathers on hooks and have fun.
Okay.
It's just like being at a show and
Yeah.
people
Yeah,
coming up to you.
it's
You
the
know,
same
you're
shit.
used to it. Joe says he's not a good teacher. The fucking guy used to do fly shows all the fucking time, and I'm not a good teacher. But he used to be a fucking pro staff for fucking Clear Q Goo and
I
tie
just say,
shows.
just watch me,
Hang
man. I
out with
can't
Jason
explain it.
Taylor. He's fucking full of shit. He's a great tire, and he's being very
Listen,
humble, and
Fritz.
he's a good teacher as well.
Well,
But-
real quick, I heard Fritz say something about Orvis. Are you going to be tying for at the Princeton store now, like doing classes?
Yeah,
With Andy?
we're hoping to put that in practice.
Okay.
And we've been talking about it back and forth for a while. And I've told our fishing manager. I just think our fishing manager had a lot going on. Our store manager got injured, and she was out. So our fishing manager took over as fishing manager and store manager, and it was just control chaos. It just was. There was a lot on his plate. So Bart and I, because I work with Bart Labarda, and Bart and I kept telling him, like, dude, start a Thursday time class. Like, I mean, we could pack this bitch out in 20 minutes. If him and I both put something online, hey, come tie with us for free,
Yeah.
we could pack the store out. But now that we have the new manager and our fishing manager is back to his role, and we have a store manager doing his role, I think it's going to open up a little bit more. But yeah, I've told him time and time again, just shake your head yes, and leave me a key to the store or have a key holder at the store with me until 9 o'clock. Store closes at 6. We do from 6 to 8. Give us an hour to put everything away, and we're out of there by 9. I love going to Stream of Dreams. I love that shop. I love the guys up there, but it's fucking far.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it's an hour and 30 minutes for me. And if like I love John. the guy who owns the shop, and the kid Justin who works there. I mean, they're just great people, and I love going up there, and I love helping them out. And like the people that I've met up there that come to the class, they're great people. Um, I just wish that the shop was an hour and 5 minutes closer.
I get it, and I can make those trips to Princeton, see my buddy Andy. So we'll end up having Andy on. He's a great story. He's been in Bob's books and stuff. So we'll have him on at some point. I talked to him the other day.
Awesome.
I do want to say to everybody, just so it's on the feed, I don't want to just put this. If you guys don't follow Fritz on Instagram, go ahead, give him a follow. He is on_the_fly. And check out some of his posts. He does do live feeds on there as well for tying when he's tying at the shop up north in Saddle River. Is it Saddle River up there?
Yeah, Upper Saddle River.
So definitely give him a follow so you can check him out. I really appreciate you coming on and kind of getting us your lowdown of your history and what you're going to be doing. If you guys want to book a trip, go ahead and hit him up on Instagram. He said that's the best way to get him right now. His website's in progress. Websites are a pain in the ass to develop, and they take a while to get it to where you want it, especially when you're anal like he is. He's going to want to have it perfected to the point where it just makes it super easy for him to edit and book things and input it into calendars and things like that. So for now, just hit him up on Instagram. Hit him in the DMs. Hopefully he's checking them daily, hourly. Once the show becomes viral, he's gonna be booking more trips than he could handle. He's gonna have to be looking for a backup. So Joe, get your boat ready and get into retirement early.
I'm no guide. I'll push the client off the bow so I can catch the fish.
Anything trout related, please call South Branch Outfitters and ask for me specifically. I'm doing all my trout stuff through them, so if anybody wants to get out on the trout street, please call them and ask me specifically. What's really cool about them too is they do have access to Shannon's private waters, so call them, ask for me, and tell them that's where you want to go, and I'll take you on some beautiful water up there, perfectly restored, loaded with big fish. We'll go have some fun.
Excellent. And before we wrap it up, George, I just want to take a minute and thank George. I mean, with this new venture here and this new project, George did a lot of work. Just wanted to thank him, appreciate for some of that work that you had to do to put this together.
Thank you.
For sure. No problem. Next week, we're going to have an interesting person that's going to be coming on. If you guys do not follow Hand Tied Market, go give him a follow on Instagram. What he does is incredible, and I figured I'd bring him on here because he does have some amazing stuff going on his Instagram, and what he's doing for tires and commercial tires or just people on Instagram, it's absolutely amazing, and I figure I'd bring him in, and if other people could get to know his work and what he wants to do, I think that'd be great. And he's a lover of pike and muskie, so I think that's going to be a great discussion. And maybe him and Fritz could hook up and he could guide him, or vice versa. They could just hang out and go for pike and muskie or whatever the case is. So definitely give them a follow. And anything else, if you guys want to say anything, I'll end it right there. And
I still want to fish. I still want to fish with Fritz for pike. I still haven't caught a pike on the fly yet my whole entire life.
I tie him commercially, and I haven't caught a fish on a pike.
Guess what, man? That season is. I just checked the water temps now. I mean, we're at like 46 tonight.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in the 50s again tomorrow. You're going to be close to 50. They're going to be moving up the spawn. They're going to be eating tomorrow, and plus all that rain we just had. It's going to be a little flooded. I just checked the gauges. Tomorrow should be a good day. Hopefully, knock on wood. You guys see some pictures tomorrow afternoon.
Nice.
All right. All right, guys. So you guys are going to see Fritz probably in a year. We'll probably do a follow-up to see how he's doing, how everything's going, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Fritz.
Night. Thanks for coming on.
You guys could stay on.
Yeah, I'm going to